Hi, y'all. It is Friday, September 30th, 2 days after Hurricane Ian has hit the southwest coast of Florida. My name is Dr. Amanda Evans. If you knew me in my childhood in Fort Myers, you knew me as Mindy Evans. So, hi, y'all who knew me that way. I am a trauma specialist, and I wanted to do something to help in any way those people who've been impacted by this storm, which are thousands and thousands and thousands of my friends, family, and neighbors. So this is my way of trying to do something that would be helpful. I'm filming this in my little teardrop camper, my Tab 400, which is how I travel around the US, but I will be coming down to the area as soon as I can figure out a place that can use me. I've put my credentials into the Red Cross, and we'll see how quickly. But I thought in the meantime I could at least do this video. I'm not good at everything. This is what I do, and this is the only thing I've done for 40 years is crisis kind of work and helping graduate students also learn to do crisis kind of work. And that's my specialty. So it's not useful in most of my life, but it is useful for these kinds of situations. So I'm going to give you some tips. So as I mentioned, I am a trauma specialist. I am published in that field. That's what I speak on regularly. Before I retired, that's what I did all of my life. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Florida and still active. But I think most importantly for you all is I am a hurricane survivor myself. So I wanted to kind of meld those worlds together, my own experience, which typically I wouldn't do in direct practice, but you're not my clients, you're my neighbors, you're my friends, you're my family. So I'm going to cross over a little bit, which I normally would not do. My heart is breaking for you. So I wanted to give you some advice on what is normal and what you can be expecting to feel during these months, y'all. Not just a few days. This is going to take a while. So my first thing I want to mention is that you're going to feel numb, and this is what your memory is going to feel like too. You might feel really numb, like you're not even sure what to do next. You're not even sure what day it is. You're not sure when the storm hit. You'll remember the day forever, but this numbness that you're going to feel is a perfectly normal response and one that might linger for a while. So don't think there's anything wrong with you. That is the way our brains work. It's a protective device and it protects itself. And part of that is numbing and not experiencing things that have been horrifying or frightening or have impacted us in some way. So numbness is perfectly normal. When I was a Hurricane Charlie survivor, and I had a water spout that came off the water from where I lived, and it came across my house and the neighbors in front of me. My brother on this one side of me had no damage, and my neighbor on the other side of me had no damage. And the university opened. I was a university professor, and the university opened on schedule because South Fort Myers wasn't impacted by this. And that's the way life is. You know, things get back to normal. I don't think that's going to be the case in Fort Myers, but it may be. And I know for our first responders, they've had no break and have to keep going back. But that's what happened with me. So I'm digging through. I'm there by myself because I've moved my one daughter to Tampa right after the hurricane, to Orlando. And I'm digging through moldy clothes that are smelling terrible because of all the water damage to try and find something to wear to go in to teach a class, my very first class of the year. And I walked into the room, I'm sure quite numb, and I looked out in the sea of faces sitting in front of me, and some of the students were eager. They had textbooks, they had pens and paper, they were ready to take notes. These are graduate students, they're very eager. And then I noticed the faces of the other students in the class, and probably half of them probably looked like I did. They were just numb. They were there, but they were just numb. So I switched gears immediately, and I drew Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow gave us a construct to think about things way back when. And I'm actually going to pop that in here so you can see it as I'm talking. But Maslow talks about how needs need to be met in order for us to function. And one of them is safety and shelter. And for many of us, that's where we were. And you go on up into, way up into like self-actualization. Education, especially higher education, is way up there. Those needs can't be met without safety. And that's the reality of it. So we had to pivot a little bit and focus. And I think that was a very good thing for students that had not been impacted, for them to understand that there were students who were homeless. I was homeless, and having to literally survive and try and figure out what they were going to do next while they're still trying to put one foot in front of the other. I have no idea what I taught that semester. I have no idea what I said that semester. I don't remember much about that semester, to be honest with you, but we got through it. So that feeling of numbness does linger for a while, and that is okay. You will not be your best, and that is okay. This is a crisis. Our world's turned upside down. Our regular routine isn't going to be there. Our predictability has been disrupted. So that's all right. So you might feel that, especially if you were highly impacted, and especially if you were in your house when this storm was going on, as I was. So that is my first thing. Another thing that you're going to expect is emotional. You're going to feel emotional. It has been since 2004 for me, and I still get emotional, and this just triggered me all over again because I'm empathizing and actually sympathizing with what everybody's going through. So you have these sort of emotional responses. You might be tearfulness. It might be irritability. It might be ridiculousness, where you're laughing at things, and kind of dark humor, and that's all right too. All of that is normal, feeling more emotional than you normally feel, whether it's irritability or depression. And I'm saying depression carefully because I'm not talking about clinical depression. I'm talking about just feeling blue and having some days where you go, what the heck? I almost cussed there, but what the heck just happened? And those are all normal feelings, and they can linger, and you can swing through all of these different emotions. So you and your partner talk about this, you talk to your children, say, I'm sorry, this is hurricane talk happening, this is coming through the other side happening, this isn't how I feel. But be aware of that, and give yourself some permission to not necessarily be, we can't be over angry, but to be angry. It's okay to be pissed off about what has happened to you. And that's an important thing. I think another thing is the feeling of tearfulness if you're not a tearful person. That is surprising to people around you. You will get a lot of well-meaning advice, platitude, comfort. And if you're watching this video and you're one of those people who've not been affected by the hurricane, but you want to help, but you don't know what to say, and my former students are going to be laughing right now if they're watching this, but when in doubt, shut up. Just shut up. Because what people need is presence. What people need is someone to say, I'm so sorry this happened to you. How can I help? What can I do to help? That's what people need. They do not need biblical advice. Sorry, you guys, but they don't. They don't need to hear, at least you're safe. They don't need to hear, at least it wasn't worse. Anything that starts with at least is probably not a good idea, just saying. So leave that off the table. What people need is presence. They need to know they're not alone. So when in doubt, just shut up. And that's a hard one because you think that this is helpful. Know your audience and know who you're talking to, and know if someone responds and pushes back, you probably said the wrong thing. Own it and then back up from that. Just be present. I am so sorry this has happened to you, because you are. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be more eloquent than that. If you're working with people in crisis, it just needs to be simple. What can I do to help? I am so sorry you're going through this. What can I do? Because what happens with situations like this is the world will move on. It's similar to a death. The world will move on. People will go on with their lives who weren't impacted by this. And they will go back to their routine, and years will pass, and you're still coming out of this. You're trying to get your head around what has happened to you. So you have to be, if you're a survivor, you have to be patient with those who are trying to help. But I think if you're wanting to help, you also need to remember that the anniversary of this is never going to go away. I've never forgotten August 13th, 2004. I've never forgotten any of that. So you have to be patient on both sides. And so when in doubt, shut up and just ask what you can do to help. Sorry if you've been looking for poetry quotes or biblical quotes or wisdom, whatever. Now, having said that, I will say, for those of you who are coming out of this, the best piece of advice, and I'm not a religious person, so don't worry about if you're going to react here. The best piece of advice in dealing with something like this has been for me the Serenity Prayer, because it gives great wisdom. And I think wisdom, wherever we can, whatever the source is, we take it. And that, if you're not familiar with the Serenity Prayer, it's used in all the 12-step program, but it basically says, grant me the serenity, the peace, to accept the things I cannot change. And that's huge. We do have to accept things that we cannot change. The courage, the guts, the wherewithal to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference between the two. That's in a nutshell, and me paraphrasing the heck out of the Serenity Prayer, but it's great advice. There are things that we can't change, and we put an enormous amount of energy into things that we cannot change. But there are things that we can, and one thing we can is we can work here and here on ourselves and making sure that we're doing something that's healthy for us and healthy for the people around us. That we have the power over. We don't have the power over other people. We don't have the power over other things. We don't have the power over the winds of nature. We just don't. But that is a great piece of advice, I would say, because it works on us and it gives us permission to weed through and get perspective. It takes a while to get there, because what happens is these kinds of disasters hit us where we've put all of our love and our energy. I know for myself, when I had a 2-story house and when the roof was taken, and of course the wind was, because it was a water spout, the wind was deafening, so it was a tornado basically that came off the water. And my daughter and I, Mallory, God bless you, Mallory, if you're watching, because she and I went through that together with my aunt. Who was not her best that day. And we're running upstairs and putting garbage cans where the water's pouring in. We're just putting one foot in front of the other, and we're going downstairs again. Because remember, storm surge was supposed to be the issue. And storm surge is the issue here. And then the water came through, and it came through downstairs on these Winnie the Pooh books that I've had since childhood, that my mother used to read to me. And my mother's been gone for decades, but they were treasures to me, and I lost it then. And then in the aftermath, my children's drawings and things that I'd been saving, things they'd made me for Mother's Day, and cards and all of that had all gotten ruined. I mean, I've saved a little bit, but not much, but it was all ruined by water. Those are the things that tug at you, because those are the things that you've put your heart into. And we think that those are the things that matter. And this is where I want to help you here. They do matter, and it doesn't mean you don't grieve them. But I will tell you, you're going to be okay. You really are going to be okay. Sorry. You will come out this, and you will rebuild, and you'll remember the rebuild as well. I came out of the storm. It took years, but through those years, Financially, I was in trouble. However, I am who I am today, and the subsequent years that have followed, I got stronger and I knew myself better than I ever would have, because I knew my ability to go through something horrible, and I was pretty alone in the process, in truth, because that's the way this is. But I came out stronger. I still have trauma triggers, obviously. I still do. That's not PTSD. That's a trauma trigger, because this is mirroring my brain is reacting to something that looks very familiar in trying to help you all. It's not going to hurt me. This is a trigger. It's not PTSD. PTSD means that wound stays open and it just lives open, and it interferes with all of your functioning and your ability to put one foot in front of the other and have relationships and have a happy life. That is not what's going on. This is a trigger. So maybe it's good that I'm showing you this. I don't know. It's a little embarrassing, but it does happen. It does happen when things mirror that. So tips for you all to come through the other side of this. When Dr. Pat and I, hi Dr. Pat, if you're watching this, who is also a hurricane survivor, when we were writing our book, we wrote a book on the neuroscience behind trauma, because we wanted to get information out, because we were academics. We had access to neuroscience research that wasn't getting to the direct practice community. We were also developing courses, 2 courses in trauma. I was on the neuroscience side and she taught the treatment side. And we needed something because there wasn't anything in print. So we published this book, and it's disseminated worldwide, and not because it's so good. Believe me, it's a basic book, but we wrote it for people who might be in India recovering from a tsunami, and luckily the publishers have disseminated it that way. So it's in libraries across the world, and we're very proud of that. But when we were researching this, Pat did the treatment because we said it was going to be evidence-based. The trouble with evidence-based practice is all that evidence is coming basically from the United States and the other few industrialized nations. But basically, boy, we do love our evidence-based practice here. And that's good. That means we're not going off and doing odds and ends of therapy. But for me, I wanted to know more how people recover without therapy, because most of the world are experiencing hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, natural disasters, war, and they don't have licensed clinical people like me helping them, but they're still recovering from trauma. So here's what I came up with and what I've discovered in my research. And if you're watching this and you have more research, put it in the comments, because people might enjoy seeing that. But community is the most important thing. And I'm not talking about your next door neighbor necessarily, but it could be. We get through things because we're social creatures by a sense of community. Now, I will say, because I was the only one on the street, if it hadn't been for my brother Matt, I don't know what I would have done. He was my rock from the moment the bed collapsed right after I'd gotten out of it with hundreds of pounds of debris. I had literally just gotten out of bed. And had I been in bed, I wouldn't be here talking to you, because it would have, no question, killed me. He came in and just basically said, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. We're going to get through this. It's all going to be okay. He wasn't impacted, but he was my rock, because I needed to hear that we're all going to be okay. This is the time, Fort Myers, Naples, Port Charlotte, Arcadia, all of you who've been impacted, this is the time to pull together as a community. This is probably the worst storm we're going to ever have. Hurricane Donna hit Naples, I think in 1961. I remember my aunt and uncle were impacted by it. We've had some storms since. This is the big one, you all. This is the time to put any differences aside. This is the time to, if you have a barbecue grill, pull it out and help your neighbors. Go around and pull together. That is what how you're going to get through this. Pull together as a community. Professionals are going to start rolling in. Like I said, I've put my credentials in with the Red Cross. They may or may not call me. I'll get down to help in any way I can whenever I can. But in the meantime, once those roads are clear, find out what you can do. You're going to see the best of humanity right now. You're going to see the best of humanity. Forget the news and what they're talking about with looting. We've relied on the news, and they've been amazing through this storm, because I've been glued, probably unhealthily glued, because I lost contact with my own family. They're safe, but it's horrible. The news will start then talking about looting and things like that. It's stuff, you guys. It's stuff. Pull together as humans. This is what matters. The humanity of this. This is what you're going to see. And this is what I'm hoping that you can, if you're not impacted, be that person to bring meals to people who have no refrigeration. Or if you have a grill and don't have refrigeration, cook up everything in your freezer. Help will come in the form of water and food and electricity. My cousin and her husband are part of that first responder team that will be coming in. Hi, Marie and Bruce, if you're watching. They assess the down power lines and power shortages to get that information to the electric companies. That's what they do. They do post-storm work. Thank you guys for what you do. But you're going to see the best of humanity, and you're going to want to be the best of humanity right now. So pull together, because that's what's going to get you through. That's what my research has shown, that how people recover worldwide. Therapy is lovely, but quite frankly, right now, we need shelter and safety. We need predictability. We need to know what the next step of this is going to be like for us. And I think that's what I would offer to you. I would also, the next thing is that's going to happen, and this is a part of my own personal experience. The insurance adjusters are going to start coming in, and this is very practical advice that I wish I had. Get somebody with you, because remember, go back to that numb thing. Your insurance adjusters are going to come in, and they're going to give you a statement of what the check is going to be based on what they think the damage is. My own experience, it was about half of what it actually would have taken to rebuild my house. Once you sign that check, or you take that check, that contract is sealed. So when that adjuster comes in, pull in. Neil Lozo, if you're watching, I wish I had asked you to come in, because he would have been able to give really good advice, because he built my house. Get somebody in there that knows something about construction, if you can. At the very least, get someone in there who is not numb like you are. And I'm not saying the insurance companies are, yes, I am. I'm saying the insurance companies will come in with a low ball, and you cannot be a victim of that. That was probably my biggest mistake, is I took a check not knowing. It seemed like a lot of money. It was $64,000. It wasn't even close to what it would take to rebuild my house. It was a cursory walkthrough. I had water in between the two layers. I had drywall that was started to mold after that had happened. So you need to be quite assertive in that area. And if you're not an assertive personality, get someone in there who will be assertive on your behalf. And don't take a check until you know that that's going to actually cover your damages. And that's going to happen pretty soon. So do that pretty quickly. And if you're watching this on behalf of someone else, get that word to you, because I think that was really my biggest mistake, is taking a check. And so I ended up having to subcontract it myself, and I did. Now this is part of my own, I can do mitered corners, you guys. I did crown molding, I rebuilt. Marie and Bruce came down, and God bless them, did hardwood floors, which none of us will ever do again. I did all of that myself because I couldn't afford to pay someone to do it. And so it took me, I lived in my laundry room for 1.5 years. So it was a large laundry room, but it was my laundry room, which then takes me to the next thing, is that I created, going back to that serenity prayer, there are things that I could do and things I could afford to do, and there were things that I could not. And it was very easy for your brain to go to, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. So what I did is I took a foam core board like kids use for projects, And I took sticky stuff and I stuck it on the wall of my laundry room. And every time I had a mattress on the floor, and every time I'd think of something that I could do that wouldn't cost a lot of money or didn't cost any money, baby, it was just work, I wrote it on my serenity list, and I created this serenity list. And I left that list up through the whole process, and I would mark through what I got accomplished, because that visually gave me a sense of accomplishment that I was working through my list. As simple as that sounds, that was a huge help to me, because otherwise you feel like you're not making any progress at all. And I also want to say that you need to be patient, because this is not going to happen overnight. This is going to take a while. And I just want to close with a little bit of a story. The very first, Charlie happened in August, my first Christmas, and this will be the same for many of you. I was one of those crazy Christmas people. I had a 2-story house. I was very proud of my house. It was 4,000 square feet. We raised our children in it. It was wonderful for that time. And it was gutted. It was completely gutted. So when Christmas rolled around, it was nothing but a concrete floor, basically. No pretty Christmas decorations, none of the garland and all of those things. So I was feeling fairly Grinchish about it. My cousin's husband, Bruce, again, you can see where my support system has been, said to me, "You're not going to have Christmas without a Christmas tree." So he bought me this artificial Christmas tree with lights already on it and all of that. And the girls came over, and we had the lawn chairs. I brought plastic lawn chairs from outside, and we sat around that tree and had our Christmas. And I have to tell you, it's one of the most special memories that I have with that torn up house and that fake Christmas tree, because it was a time for us to really spend time together about Christmas. It was about being together. It wasn't about the decorations. It wasn't about presents. It wasn't about how beautifully they were wrapped. It was about me being with my girls at a time where my life was turned upside down. And really, that's all that matters. All of this other stuff will become a memory. Since the storm has happened and my life has gone on, I have downsized numerous times. My retirement plan was to downsize and live full-time in this 18-foot camper, and I divide my time between the United States and North America, Canada, and Europe. And I don't have any money because my nest egg was all gone because the market crashed after that. This is about life, and this is about making a life that is about the things that matter, not about the things that you lost. Those are things, and when we leave this earth, none of those things will matter. What matters are the people you love and the people who love you and the life you've lived, not the things. So I hope that in just a tiny way, this may be of some comfort and some help to you. I can't do anything else for you right now. So hopefully maybe one takeaway message is something that you can share. I will make this public so it's shareable. I will put it on YouTube as well. Please make comments if you can offer any other suggestions down there, because people do read comments and they help. If they're negative comments, you guys, I'm just going to delete you, because I do not have energy for that right now. We don't need negativity in our lives. So if you're going to make negative comments, good luck to you, because I'm not doing that. But comments on encouragement, comments on how you've survived similar sorts of things that people can read would be really, really helpful. In the meantime, just remember, you're going to be okay. You really are going to be okay. My heart's with you. I spent my entire life in Fort Myers. I was born in Lee Memorial. I raised my family in Fort Myers. I went to elementary school, high school in Fort Myers. The only time I've left Fort Myers is to go away to college. I did a 40-year career and retired from Fort Myers. This is my home. This is my heart. More than I thought it was until this happened. So my heart is with you, and you're going to be okay. Bye for now, guys.